What is up, everybody? New video today is dropping on creating a leg session, or how do we go about doing a leg session. Now, the last couple of videos, as we're talking about the push-pull leg sequence, we've went over push to start off with, and then last week was pull, and now we're going over legs. Now, again, as I always say, I always preface these videos with, look, you need to go back and watch the previous videos first, watch the push-pull legs rotation, then watch the push video, then the pull video, and then this will lead you into the leg session, because each video will build on top of one another, and to really understand everything you need to watch the prior videos, otherwise you'll get a bit lost. So, creating a leg session or lower body sessions. So, where do we start? Pretty obvious, we have to start with this slide. What is a leg session? Because someone is going to be probably going to get confused somewhere along the line in terms of what muscles are we specifically trying to target in a leg session. So first off, we're going with the adductors, abductors, quads, hams, glutes, calves. Now again, I think 99% of people are going to understand that, but I have to get that in there. Again, as in other videos, we're going to allocate specific volume to our needs. Everybody is going to be different. Strengths, weaknesses will play a big role. Again, you could be someone who has very, very, very good quad development. Your quads have just grown tremendously over the last couple of years, but your hamstrings and glutes or general posterior chain is lagging behind. So you're going to need a little bit more volume allocated to posterior chain. Vice versa, some people do have big hamstrings and glutes, but quads are just lacking. So they're going to need quad volume. Someone might need more calf work. Again, I can't give you a one-size-fits-all approach with that, but you get the drift of what I'm trying to say. So we're going to have a legs A and a legs B rotation. Now the first leg session will be more quad focused, and then the second leg session is going to be more glute ham focused, but you're still going to have a bit of quad work in the legs B, and you're still going to have a little bit of glute ham work in the legs A as well. So there's a little bit of overlap there, but each one will have a specific focus in mind for the session. And again, we're going to be taking everything to failure or very close to it. Only things you might have a rep or two in the tank potentially might be obviously a barbell squat or a deadlift. You're not going to take that to complete failure, but you're going to be banging on the door of that. Maybe 1 rep, 2 reps in the tank maximum. And then everything else, all machine-based stuff, it's all going to be right up to failure until you can't complete another rep. So, that's the general drift of what a leg session is. Then now we need to decipher this, the other big thing of the push-pull leg splits. When are we going to deadlift? Now, there's many ways we can do this. Someone might decide to deadlift on every single lower day that they do, and they will not deadlift on a pull day. That's fine. Some people like to have their main deadlift from the floor or their main pull from the floor, their heaviest one of the week or the heaviest one of the rotation. Some people like to put that on when they're fresh on their first pull day, and then they will have their second deadlift variation on the second lower day of the week, or lower day rotation B. So there's many ways to do this. Again, for the sake of the video, I'm going to go with the example that I've done in the last videos, is where someone is going to deadlift on pull day. So they're going to deadlift on pull day A, and then they're going to have their second deadlift variation on lower day B. So hopefully, again, you need to go back and watch the other videos for this deadlift part to make sense. Many ways you can do this, as I say. Someone could decide to deadlift twice, so once on pull day A and pull day B, and not deadlift on lower day at all. Somebody else might choose to do one a piece, one on lower, one on pull, and then someone might deadlift twice on lower. So again, that's individual on how you progress best. You have to experiment with that, again, like a lot of things. So let's get into legs A, or lower day A, which is going to be a quad focused. I'm going to go through the exercises, rep ranges, the whole thing behind things. Right, again, start this off, nothing is set in stone. This is just an example of what you can run with. So, with a lot of leg training now, right, adductors for the most part are going to get some good work off barbell squats and a lot of squatting patterns anyway. But again, if we've got ultimate physique development goals, and again, if you're clicking on this video, you've got hypertrophy is at the forefront of your mind. Now, the adductors are the muscle of the inner thigh. Now, especially if someone is bodybuilding orientated and wants to step on stage, for example, big adductors, they make a difference. So Just 1 to 2 sets of adductors at the start of a leg training session, taking them to failure. They're not going to take too much away from the rest of your session, but they're going to provide big benefits to your physique and your physique development. Now again, 1 to 2 sets on an adductor machine in the 10 to 20 range. You take them to failure, but if anything, they get you primed and they warm everything up very, very well, while still moving your physique forward in the right direction. So 1 to 2 sets, 10 to 20 reps. This is not a movement that you're going to be doing heavy sets of 5 to 10. It makes no fucking sense, because you can tear your shit up on an adductor machine if you're not careful. This needs to be very, very, very focused, very controlled. Open up into the stretch, big squeeze, control this movement. 1 to 2 sets to failure, you will be good to go. And that'll be the case on both lower days. We're going to start every single lower day with the adductor machine. Okay, now then we get into, again, this will change from person to person. Leg extension prior to the quad compound. Now, there's pros and cons of this. The pros are, it's really going to warm your knees up and your quads. Everything will be firing and you will be primed to go into this. And you will have, a lot of people tend to feel better in the knees. They feel safer than pushing their heavier quad compounds because everything is totally warmed up. The negatives and downsides of that is that you might limit the load exposure. You can't use as much weight on your quad compounds if you pre-fatigue your quads a touch. But again, if we're trying to get bigger, that doesn't really matter as much. So you have to experiment with leg extensions prior to your quad compounds, or going right into your quad compound first. That will depend how you feel. Just my 2 cents on it. Personally, recently, over the last couple of months, I've started to put my leg extensions first before my main hack squat or quad movement of the day, and my knees feel so much better. I have no aches and pains, and I feel like I'm able to safely push those. It's made a big difference to me. But that's not, again, try both and run with what you feel best with. That is not set in stone. But we're going to have a leg extension in there. 10 to 20 reps to failure. Leg extension is not a movement that you're going to be doing heavy sets of 5 to 10. It makes no fucking sense, because I don't care how you set up. Who wants to do a heavy set of leg extensions for a set of 6? That just makes no sense. You're going to put a lot of invasive stress on the knee joint doing that. I would much rather take that 10 to 20 close to failure or right up to failure, and you'll be good to go. Okay. Now we need a leg extension in there. One of the other benefits of putting that first is that you get the quadriceps short first. Now, it's always, as we mentioned in the last video, when we were talking about the lats and getting the lats short, it's always hard to get the quads short, so you want to get them short first. So that's the benefit of having leg extensions first. You can get the quads short. So after we've done that, again, then we get into the big meat and potatoes of the day. Now, your main quad movements, where we're going to get a ton of knee flexion. Now, this will all depend on what gym you train at and what equipment you have access to. But the bread and butter, the big basics are going to be a hack squat, a pendulum squat, and if you don't have anything like that, a barbell squat and maybe a heel elevation is going to be your go-to here. Any one of those where you're going to get a ton of deep knee flexion and you're going to be good to go. I'm not going to go into the arguments of what's better, hacks, pendulums, barbells. Again, something like that is going to go here. 2 sets, 5 to 12. Again, I don't really like to go any heavier than that, because with your heavy compound lifts, when it comes to legs, when you start going higher reps, you start to be limited by other things, and I find form quality and technique begins to break down. Just staying in that 5 to 10, 5 to 12 zone allows you to stay locked in with technique, and that's a very, very big, important part. Then after we've done that, then we get into our second quad compound. So again, let's say for example you've done hack squats here. You're not going to do a hack squat, then a barbell squat, or a pendulum squat, then a hack squat. That makes no sense. It's going to be either one of these, and then your second quad compound of the day is going to be some type of leg press variation or a split squat variation. It's not going to be one of these. Okay, so again, the hacks, pendulums, barbells, and they're in this first slot. You will not do one of these second. It has to be a leg press or a split squat, for example, or a lunge variation. So let's say we do 2 sets of hacks, then 2 sets of leg press, again 2 sets of 5 to 15, right up to failure with these, no fucking around, and again you're going to be good to go. Then we go into a hamstring curl variation. So we'll have a lion leg curl here, 2 sets, 10 to 20, and then we finish off with a walk and lunge. It could just be just 1 set is going to suffice here, because you're already going to be pretty toast after all of this. So if you look at the total volume allocation here, we've got 2 sets for quads, 2 sets here, 2 sets. That's 6 sets. This will have a little bit of stimulus for quads with walk and lunges. So that'll be seven-ish total sets for quads, 2 sets for hamstrings, 1 to 2 for adductors. And then in terms of glute stimulus, you're going to get a little bit of glute stimulus from maybe a split squat and a lunge variation, and depending on which movement that you pick here, barbell squat will have more glute activation than a pendulum or hack again. But the main focus of this day is quad, and that's what we're going for. I might as well preface this now. Calves, everyone always talks about calves. When do we do calves? Calves can be done any day of the week. You can do calves at the start of your push session if you wanted to, or at the end of a push session, at the start of legs, at the end of legs, whenever suits you. 2 to 3 sets of calves to failure. It's not very taxing at all. You can do them anytime, so we don't need to worry about that. They can go anywhere that you see fit. So that's leg day A, which is quad focus. Now, then we get into our leg day B. Now again, if we've done our pull day and we've done our heavy deadlift from the floor, that is going to contribute to hamstring volume as well on that first pull day that you've done. So you might be thinking, there's only 2 sets of hamstring here. Why is that? Because you need to look at the pull day that you've done maybe a couple of days prior. You will have had 1 to 2 good sets of hamstring hip hinge work there. So that will go in combination with this here, which then ties us in to leg day B, which is primarily going to be a glute and ham focus day. So again, we start off adductor machine, 1 to 2 sets, 10 to 20 reps to failure, and then we're going to start off with a hamstring curl variation. Now on whichever one, if you've done a lying leg curl on leg day A, you're going to do a seated one on leg day B. So again, doesn't matter what order you do it in, but you want to try and get both of those in if you can. A lying leg curl is going to bias the hamstring in the shortened position, and the seated leg curl is going to bias the hamstring in that lengthened position. So if you can get both in there, you'll be good to go. So hamstring curl, 2 sets, 10 to 20 reps again, right up to failure. I don't like hamstring curls too heavy. I don't like them set to 6 either. Again, they make no sense. I find other muscles begin to take over. It's not a good move in my opinion. So after you've done your adductor and hamstring curl, you're going to be good to go. Now then you get into your hinge variation. Now this, what I like to do on the lower day B, which is going to be the glute and hamstring focused. If I've done a heavy pull or heavy deadlift from the floor earlier in the week, which has been on the pull day, I'm going to try and use a variation here which forces me to use a little bit less weight, so a self-limiting variation. Now a paused RDL, for example, RDL with a controlled tempo, stiff leg with the tempo, you can make these movements as hard as possible. That will bring the load down while still providing a good stimulus. So one of these movements will go in here perfectly. 2 sets, 5 to 10 reps. Again, you'll be good to go. Now because this is the glute and hamstring focus day, that's your hip hinge is going to take primary importance on this day. So your hamstring curl will come first, and then your hinge variation. Then you get into your quad compound. Now again, if you've done a hack squat on lower day A, you're not going to do a hack squat again here. You might pick the pendulum or a leg press or something else can go here, and then you're going to do 2 sets, 5 to 15 reps here. Now this is going to be a little bit of quad work for your lower day B, because leg day A was primarily quad focused, but we still want a little bit of quad work in here, so just 2 sets is going to suffice here. Then we get into our hip thrust variation, where we're going to try and bias getting the glute in the short, because your glute is going to have been worked in the lengthened position by your hip hinges, your deadlifts, Romanian deadlift, stiff legs. Your glutes will be worked in the lengthened position there. Same with any sort of single leg split squats, lunge variations, all of that stuff. So we want something to bias the short, which will be a hip thrust variation. So maybe a Smith hip thrust or a glute machine, something like that. 1 to 2 sets, 10 to 15 reps, and then we'll finish off again with a lunge split squat variation. Smith machine split squat, a Bulgarian split squat, something along those lines. You're going to get a little bit of a tie-in of quads and glutes with this. So again, if you look at your overall volume in terms of hamstring work here, you're going to have 2 sets here, 2 sets here, so that's 4 for hams. In terms of glute work, your hip hinge is going to have 2, 1 to 2 here, that could be 4, and then you're going to get some overlap here as well. So again, it's a primary glute and hamstring focus day with a little bit of quad work in there as well. So you're going to be good to go. In terms of calves, again, you can do them anytime you want. Now, it all comes down to a person's strengths and weaknesses, as we say. Is someone going to need as many split squat or lunge variations here? You might not need that. You might need to take that out. Your glutes could be very, very big. You could have well-developed glutes, you have weak quads, as we spoke about, so you might need to take one of these movements out and still put a little bit more quad work in there. Again, that will depend, and that will vary on person to person. But again, if you look over the course of the two lower days, we've got enough quad volume, enough hamstring, enough glute volume, so you're going to be good to go. Now again, none of this, absolutely fucking nothing of what I've just said matters if you do not have the balls to train hard and the ability to push these sets to failure, because leg training is a different beast. It's a different animal than upper body or any sort of back work. It's a different ball game, and you will know that. Taking a leg press or a hack squat to failure with good technique, it's tough. It requires you to win the battle up here in the mind before you even go into the set, and as you know, if you do a set of 10 to failure, it's going to be hard from rep 1, rep 2, rep 3. You have to be able to push through that. None of this programming stuff matters again if you don't have the balls to train hard. I needed to get that in there because it's so vitally important when it comes to leg training. So many people are worried about the details, and they don't have this. They do not have the balls to push things. So you need to have this in place first for all this other stuff to matter. Okay? Very, very important point. Again, just to cap it off, as always, this is a guideline. You have to experiment for yourself. Volume requirements, the exercise selections that I've mentioned here, they may not suit you. You may need different exercises. You may need a little bit more volume for certain areas. You might need a little bit less. You have to experiment. But that is a good skeleton to go off. Run that for a few months. See how your results go. That's it. Okay? You can't cheat the experimentation process. You have to do it yourself and see how your body responds. That's it. That's the closing message for the video. As you always say, you have to experiment. Right, let me know what you think. Next video will be coming next week. It's either going to be a Q&A or we're going to be going into the upper lower rotation and the benefits of that split. So keep your eyes peeled. Let me know what you think, and I'll talk to you all in the next one.